Throughout our special coverage of shale gas development and fracking in New Brunswick, we've sought out a wide variety of knowledgeable voices and opinion from across North America. One of the most outspoken critics of fracking is a man who helped the oil and gas industry develop the technique. Tony Ingraffea is an engineer from Cornell University and the president of Physicians, Scientists and Engineers for Healthy Energy. He's in New Brunswick at the invitation of the Conservation Council, and he joins me today from our St. John studio. Tony Ingraffea, good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
You've almost made a career out of debunking what you call the myths of fracking for shale gas. We'll get to those in just a minute, but first tell me what your contribution has been to this technology.
Beginning in the 1970s, I did research and development for the oil and gas industry on what we call simulation of hydraulic fracturing, using computer models to predict how hydraulic fracturing should work. Also did work for the gas industry on cementing of casings to help ensure their wellbore integrity, and also worked at the surface in helping the American petroleum industry develop regulations and techniques for ensuring pipeline safety.
So what has prompted you to be so critical of fracking and shale gas extraction?
It's not fracking per se, it's shale gas extraction using what I call an extreme version of fracking. In and of itself, fracking is just a technology. It can be used or it can be abused. In this case, I think it's an abuse.
How?
To get gas economically out of a shale formation, like here in New Brunswick, fracking has to be taken to on the order of 2 orders of magnitude larger in scale. That means the amount of fluid that needs to be injected is about 2 orders of magnitude larger than traditionally has been used in wells in New Brunswick, and that produces a concomitant increase in waste. It also means much more heavy equipment operating a longer period of time, and shale gas geology demands that there be many thousands of wells to make the process economical. So you're talking about very large numbers multiplied by very large numbers, and that's an abuse.
I mentioned myths that you have been debunking. One of the key myths you bust is the oil and gas industry's claim that this is 60-year-old technology. Everybody relax, we know what we're doing. Why do you object to that?
I object because there's a kernel of truth to the myth. Fracking has been around for 60 years and used commercially, but this is fracking taken to an extreme. It's not the same kind of fracking that's been used on 1 million wells for 60 years. It's the kind of fracking that's been used on a few thousand wells over the past 5 or 6 years. Therefore, it's a new technology. It's an extreme technology, and the impact of that technology should be understood before policy goes forward to use it.
One of the other myths you bust is the idea that the oil companies say there is no fluid migration from faulty shale wells, or that if there is, it's very rare. In fact, I spoke earlier this week to the head of Swin Resources here in New Brunswick. He told me no one has ever found fracking fluid in their wells. Have you evidence to counter that?
Yes, perhaps maybe not fracking fluid in any of the southwestern wells, but our EPA just in the last few weeks confirmed that there is fracking fluid migration in fractured wells in Wyoming, and there are countless stories, some of them in the public domain, of not fracking fluid, but migration of methane and other hydrocarbons that come up outside the well and contaminate underground sources of drinking water. There's incontrovertible proof that that happens relatively frequently.
You know, the oil and gas industry acknowledges there have been mistakes, but they say performance has improved dramatically over the last few years. They say there are fewer mistakes, and what mistakes there are can be easily rectified. How do you respond to that?
Not true and not true. The most recent evidence is in my nearby state of Pennsylvania, where time and time again, reputable companies doing the best that they can have accidents and cause problems with underground sources of drinking water, surface water, air pollution. Those things just continue to happen because this is an intensely complex industry.
I was in Pennsylvania. Why is it so difficult to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that shale gas drilling there is contaminating water supplies? Because there always seems to be doubt. In some cases, there are arguments that the contaminants were in the wells beforehand and nobody ever tested. That's why they're finding them now.
It's just not true. There is incontrovertible proof. There are documents that one could easily get from the Department of Environmental Protection in the state of Pennsylvania that show court orders for companies to supply landowners who have lost the use of their well water with drinking water. And the DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection of Pennsylvania, has proven beyond a doubt that contamination has occurred.
Let me put this to you. Nothing is without risk. We hear this from the oil and gas industry as well. There's some risk with anything. So how does fracking for shale gas rate compared to, in terms of riskiness, how does it rate compared to mining for coal, having an oil refinery in your backyard, or for that matter, having a nuclear power plant on your front step, all of which New Brunswickers contend with?
Excellent question. And that's the question that nobody knows the answer to yet, because enough science has not been done on all the issues related to human health and the environment to assess quantitatively the risk from this industry. It's a young industry, and the studies that need to be done frequently require a lot of data, which is just now being taken, and frequently require a long time for these studies to be done.
What's your best advice to New Brunswickers as they consider whether shale gas should be part of their future?
Taking into account the risks as I currently assess them, taking into account the current price structure of natural gas, and taking into account the big picture of global climate change, my advice would be wait.
Tony Ingraffea, good talking to you. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.
All right. Tony Ingraffea is an engineer from Cornell University. He is the president of Physicians, Scientists, and Engineers for Healthy Energy. He's in New Brunswick at the invitation of the Conservation Council. I spoke with him from our St. John's studio.